The small coastal village was peaceful and quiet. Everyone had a purpose. Some worked in the fields, while others spent their days crafting pottery, making beautiful bowls, vases, and jars. And then there were the fishermen, men like Tomás, who set sail each day, casting their nets into the sea to bring home the day's catch. Tomás was a fisherman through and through. His hands were strong from years of working with the ropes and nets. His face was weathered from the sun and the wind, but there was a warmth in his eyes. He loved the sea, the rhythm of the waves, and the peace that came with being alone on the water. But sometimes, after a long day of fishing, he felt a longing. He wondered if there was more to life than just working from sunrise to sunset, bringing fish home to his wife, Clara. Clara, his wife, was kind and hardworking. She helped Tomás with everything. After he brought the fish home, she prepared them for the market. Clara was always smiling, always busy, and always ready to help others. She had a calm nature that made everyone around her feel at ease. Yet, Clara sometimes found herself dreaming of a different life. One with a bigger house, more time with Tomás, and perhaps a chance to rest. Alvin, on the other hand, was known as the potter in the village. He spent long hours shaping clay into beautiful works of art. His pottery was famous, and people came from all around to buy his bowls and vases. Alvin was a man full of energy and passion for his craft. He could talk for hours about pottery, about the feel of the clay in his hands, and about how the earth could be shaped into something beautiful. But despite his success, Alvin often found himself thinking about his family, wishing that he could spend more time with Mara, his wife. Mara, Alvin's wife, was a quiet, thoughtful woman. She helped Alvin in the pottery shop, but it was clear that she would rather be at home, taking care of their little cottage. She loved Alvin deeply, but couldn't help feeling lonely sometimes. The long hours he spent at the pottery wheel left her with little time to talk to him. She longed for a simpler life, one where she could spend more time with Alvin and have a chance to rest. One day, by chance, Tomás and Clara ran into Alvin and Mara at the market. It was a warm afternoon, and the market was busy with villagers buying and selling goods. As Tomás and Clara walked past the pottery stall, they stopped to admire the beautiful vases and pots that Alvin had made. "Your work is wonderful, Alvin," said Clara, smiling as she picked up a delicate bowl. "Thank you, Clara," Alvin replied, grinning. "I'm glad you like it. I always admire the way you shape the clay. It's like magic," Clara said. "Magic, huh? I wish it felt like magic sometimes," Alvin said with a laugh. "It takes a lot of hard work to make these pieces, but I do love it." Mara smiled shyly as she glanced at Tomás. "And what about you, Tomás? How is the sea today?" she asked. "The sea is as peaceful as always," Tomás replied, his voice calm and steady. "The fish are plentiful, and the weather is good." The four of them talked for a while, exchanging stories about their lives. After a few minutes, Alvin leaned in, his face lighting up with a sudden thought. "Why don't we do something different?" Alvin said. "How about we switch places for a while? You and Clara could come work with us in the pottery shop, and Mara could try her hand at fishing with you, Tomás. It would be fun to see how the other side lives." Tomás and Clara exchanged a look. They both had wondered what it would be like to experience a different life. The idea seemed strange, but exciting. "I suppose we could give it a try," Clara said with a smile. "It would be interesting to see how the other half lives. And I've always wondered what it would be like to be on the sea," Mara said softly. "I think I'd like to try it." Alvin and Mara were both excited about the idea, and soon they made plans to switch places for a while. It was a decision that would change their lives in ways they never expected. The next morning, Clara moved into Alvin and Mara's cottage. She had never worked with clay before, and she was a little nervous about it. Alvin was kind and patient as he taught her how to shape the clay. It was harder than it looked. The clay felt cold and heavy in her hands, and at first, she struggled to make anything that looked even remotely like a bowl or a vase. But Clara was determined. She had always been a hard worker, and this was no different. She watched Alvin carefully, trying to learn from him. Slowly, she began to understand the rhythm of pottery. The clay was soft under her hands, and soon she started creating her own pieces, each one a little better than the last. Mara, meanwhile, was living Tomás's life. The first time she stepped onto the fishing boat, she felt a sense of fear. The sea was much bigger than she had imagined. The boat rocked with the waves, and the wind was strong against her face. But Tomás was patient with her, showing her how to cast the nets and pull them in. At first, Mara was scared of the heavy nets, but as the days went on, she grew more comfortable. There was something peaceful about being out on the water. The sea was calm at times, and other times it was rough. But Mara learned to appreciate the rhythm of the waves. She understood now why Tomás loved it so much. As the days passed, both Clara and Mara began to change. Clara, who had once dreamt of a bigger life, started to find beauty in the slow, steady work of pottery. She loved the way the clay felt in her hands, and she began creating pieces of her own. Each one was different, but each one felt special to her. She even started imagining a future where she could sell her pottery and support her family with her craft. Mara, on the other hand, had come to appreciate the life of a fisherman. She had learned that fishing was not just about catching fish. It was about being connected to the sea and working hard for what you had. She had come to admire Tomás for his strength and his dedication. She found peace in the quiet moments by the water, and she could see how hard Tomás worked to provide for their family. But something unexpected happened. Both women discovered that they were pregnant. The news was a surprise to them both, and it made them rethink their futures. Clara began to imagine a future where she could combine her love for pottery with the life she had with Tomás. Mara, however, wasn't sure how raising a child in a fisherman's life would work. She began to wonder if she could find a way to help Tomás build a life that would allow them to spend more time together. After several months, Clara and Mara returned to their original homes. Clara had grown more confident in her pottery skills, and she had begun to dream of opening her own small pottery business. Mara had learned to love the sea and had a deeper understanding of Tomás's work. But things had changed. Both women were pregnant, and they had new hopes for the future. Tomás and Alvin, too, had changed. Tomás had started to question whether he wanted to remain a fisherman forever. He had seen how hard it was to work on the sea, and he wondered if there was more to life than what he had. Alvin, on the other hand, was tired of the long hours in the pottery shop. He had learned to appreciate the work, but he also felt like something was missing. The four of them had learned a lot from their time apart, and they realized that their lives would never be the same. They began to make plans for the future, unsure of exactly where their paths would lead, but determined to make the most of what they had learned. As Clara and Mara settled back into their original homes, things felt different. There was a quiet energy in the air. Something had shifted in both women. They had spent so much time living the lives of the others that they had gained new perspectives, new ideas, and new dreams. Clara found herself walking along the shore, her mind full of thoughts about her pottery. She had always dreamed of a better life, a bigger house, and a more comfortable existence. But now, she wanted something different. The time she had spent with Alvin in the pottery workshop had opened her eyes to the beauty of simple, patient work. I could do this, she said to herself, feeling the weight of the decision on her shoulders. I could create a life with my pottery and still be with Tomás. Maybe I could make enough to support us, but I need to talk to him. That evening, Clara sat down with Tomás by the fire. She took his hand and looked into his eyes. Tomás, she began softly, I've been thinking about the future. I know I've always dreamed of a bigger life, but maybe it's not about having more things. Maybe it's about creating something we love. I've been working on pottery, and I'm good at it. I could help with the income, make enough for us to live a little easier." Tomás listened carefully. He wasn't sure what to say. He had always thought that his work as a fisherman would be enough for them. But now, seeing Clara's determination, he began to realize that maybe there was a way to build a different life. "You've always been good with your hands, Clara. If this makes you happy, I'll support you," Tomás said, his voice soft but steady. "You know, I've been thinking too. Maybe there's more to life than just fishing. I could help you with your pottery, or we could look for other ways to make a living. We can try together." Clara smiled, feeling a deep sense of relief. "I want to do this with you, Tomás." The next few weeks were full of change. Clara started to focus more on pottery. She spent long hours shaping the clay, learning new techniques, and experimenting with different designs. Her hands became skilled, and the pieces she created became more and more beautiful. She found a rhythm in the work, just like she had when she worked beside Alvin. As her pottery skills grew, so did her confidence. Clara began to think about ways to sell her creations. Perhaps she could set up a small stall at the market, or even sell her pottery to nearby towns. The idea of making a living doing something she loved excited her, and she felt a sense of purpose that she had never felt before. But it wasn't just about the pottery. Tomás and Clara started spending more time together, talking about the future and making plans. Tomás helped her with the pottery, learning how to shape the clay, and even creating a few pieces himself. They started imagining a life where they could both do what they loved and make a living from it. Clara could make pottery, and Tomás could still fish, but maybe they could take some of the pressure off each other. It wouldn't be easy, but together, they felt like they could make it work. Mara, on the other hand, was still unsure about her future. She had learned so much about life on the sea, but she couldn't help but wonder if raising a child in this environment was the best choice. Tomás was away at sea for long stretches of time, and though Mara had learned to love the sea and appreciate the life of a fisherman, she couldn't shake the worry about being alone while raising a child. One evening, Mara sat by the fire with Alvin, watching the flames flicker. The soft glow of the firelight danced on the walls of their little cottage. Alvin was busy shaping some clay, but Mara couldn't focus on the work. Her mind was too full of questions. "Alvin," she said softly, breaking the silence, "I've been thinking a lot about the baby. The sea it's beautiful, but it's hard. Tomás is gone for so long, and I wonder how I can raise a child while he's at sea. Do you think I'm being selfish?" Alvin put down his tools and looked at her, his eyes full of understanding. "Mara, you're not selfish. You're just thinking about the future. You want what's best for your child, just like I want what's best for ours. But maybe we can find a way to make it work. You and Tomás have always been strong together. Mara nodded slowly. I just feel torn, Alvin. I want to support Tomás, but I also want to have a future where we can be together more often. Raising a child in this life with Tomás gone so much. I don't know. Alvin smiled, a gentle, understanding smile. It's okay to feel unsure, Mara. We'll figure it out. Together, we can find a way to make it work. Mara spent the next few weeks in quiet reflection. She started to think about how she could balance her love for the sea with her desire to create a peaceful life with Alvin and the baby. She began helping Tomás more with his fishing, learning the ropes, and getting better at the hard work of it all. She appreciated the sea more than ever, but she also saw how difficult it was for Tomás to be away from home for so long. One day, while they were out on the water, Mara spoke up. Tomás, I've been thinking about our future. I want to be with you more. I don't want you to have to be gone all the time, but I also know how much you love the sea. Tomás nodded, looking out at the horizon. I do love it, Mara. The sea is in my blood, but I want a future with you and our child. I've been thinking about the same things. Maybe we can find a way to balance both, fishing and family. I don't want you to be alone when the baby comes. Mara smiled, a feeling of hope blooming in her heart. I think we can do it. We just have to find the right balance. As the months went on, both couples worked hard to build new lives. Clara's pottery business began to grow. She sold her creations at the market, and people started asking for custom pieces. It wasn't easy, but it was rewarding. Clara found fulfillment in her work, and Tomás supported her every step of the way. Mara, too, began to find peace in her new life. Tomás took fewer trips to sea, and when he did, Mara worked alongside him, learning even more about fishing. They found a rhythm that allowed them to be together more, and Mara's worries began to fade. Alvin, too, found balance. He started spending more time with Mara, and though he still loved pottery, he began to help out around the house more. Together, both couples began to dream of a future where they could have the best of both worlds. Tomás and Alvin found new ways to balance work and family, and Clara and Mara, with their growing children, found peace in their new lives. As Clara and Mara looked ahead, they felt a sense of hope and excitement. They had both experienced the challenges of living someone else's life, but now they were ready to create their own paths. They had learned from each other and from the men they loved, and now they had the tools to build lives that were full of meaning and possibility. their children would grow up surrounded by love, hard work, and the beauty of the sea and the earth. Clara and Mara knew that life would never be easy, but with the love and support of their families, they were ready for whatever came next.